Wisdom in Your Life has unearthed the foundational blueprint of humanity. That is, what makes us human. We have 7 episodes discussing this. In this episode, we explore the underlying forces and structure that shape us, offering a way to view humanity as an interconnected system guided by universal principles. Enjoy.
So we did something really interesting recently, didn't we?
Yes, we did.
We did. We went and uncovered, here at Wisdom in Your Life, we went and uncovered the energy pattern of humanity, which is enormous on one level, isn't it?
Yes, but it was simple on another.
Oh, yeah.
But it did take us all day.
And we were exhausted afterwards. I remember leaving going,
yeah.
What just happened?
Yeah.
But
and I started the day with, let's acknowledge just how massive it is.
Yeah, but then after you left that day, and Bryn was like, I have to have a sleep, I went, I need to do a little bit more. Yeah. And I had to place the energy pattern in the structures and processes that we currently live in.
Right.
And that just took it to another level.
Yeah.
But we probably should start at the beginning, hey? And talk
I suppose
about,
so.
Well, and really it's like...
What is an energy pattern? And
yeah, but, we're all born, every living thing has its own energy pattern.
Yeah.
Right? And you can see it in any animal, any tree, and anything.
And the way I explain it, particularly when we're doing the compass workshop, is when your dad's wiggler went into your mum's egg and there was a spark, that spark is you.
Yeah.
And that is your unique energy pattern.
Yeah.
That's the part of you that will be the same from the start to the end of your life and will never change. And it's something you can always rely on.
Yeah. And people resonate with that.
Yeah.
When we get them to a point of considering that concept or a deeper voice or knowing or vibration, whatever it is for them, that speaks to them, they know that. They already have a relationship with it, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. The difference here is rather than looking at the energy pattern of an individual, we went all the way out to the energy pattern of all humans, humanity.
It's not really all humans, because the humanity is actually in the space in between all humans, and it's more like a substrate, and all humans are little parts within it all. And because otherwise we're going to think we can change the pattern of humanity by changing ourselves, and it doesn't work that way.
That's right.
And it's sort of between us and surrounds us, and it has stayed the same since humans were first here. Because, like you said, the energy pattern stays the same from beginning to end. So the energy pattern of humanity has never changed. Other external things and structures have made us not follow that energy pattern, which has then created a whole range of issues in our societies. But if we actually based all our systems, all our processes and practices on the energy pattern of humanity, we would actually be in harmony.
Yes.
And it would be much more simple. And so, wait, what you're saying is that the energy pattern of humanity, it comes through us, right? So we channel it in some way. And I guess what I'm hearing and what is jumping out for me is that whilst we have lost it over time due to whatever you want to say, evolution, this and that, whatever, destructive patterns, is it the moments when things happen terribly that it shows up and we come together and it kind of reflects that collectiveness again, that interconnected ecosystem of a whole that kind of comes out, right?
So in natural disasters. And so I probably first recognised it when my house got destroyed in a tornado. Right? People just turned up to help, and everyone was working as a collective. Everyone was caring about everyone else. Everyone just accepted that your story was the truth. And everyone was communicating really well. And I remember our insurance company said, oh, we need to get a structural engineering to check.
Yeah.
And so I communicated that with the next door neighbour, who was like, my insurance company's not doing that. And so then we communicated it to the council, and the council went, okay, we're doing, every insurance company has to get a structural engineer, because in the tornado, roofs lifted up and came back down. But humans, like we all, and you know, it was so interesting because all our fences went down. And so then every morning we would gather in a backyard, and everyone's like in their pajamas, having coffee in the backyard as a collective.
Yeah.
And when I've spoken to people that were in the tsunamis and earthquakes and that, they all say the same thing.
Yeah,
These,
I experienced it.
You've experienced it too.
Yeah, after an El Nino event in South America. And all the bridges got washed away, and everyone in the village, and the electricity went off, and everyone in the village almost breathed this collective sigh of relief that they could put their wallets away, and everyone could just play volleyball, make chicken and rice, and hang out as a collective and do what they really wanted to do. And then when several days later, when the electricity came back on, it was almost a sign of, oh, we've got to go back to that other way of doing it.
But the other bit that happened for me, and maybe it happened for you as well, is that people came with solutions. They worked out how to resolve a problem.
Yeah.
And so they sort of like, made things happen.
Yeah.
You know, someone said, do people need to be fed? And they just set up a barbecue.
Yeah.
With sausages for everyone.
Yeah.
Just a gas barbecue.
Yeah.
So that is where we actually feel into the energy pattern of humanity.
Yeah.
And so we know this, right?
Yeah.
And it's been spoken about before around how we come together, and that's true Aussie spirit or whatever it is all across the world. But if we're going back to the energy pattern of humanity being a substrate, where did we lose that first point of connection? Or like, what am I trying to say? We know that it's there, we know that it exists, and we often can connect to it.
Okay, I'll stop you there.
Yeah.
It's the connection.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So we have forgotten how to connect to it because we disregard it. We focus on things outside of humanity. Namely, like currently, economics becomes central organising principle for life.
Yeah.
Whereas it actually needs to, like, for life to actually flow, humanity or living life, probably life needs to be at the centre of it all.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that we've unearthed there then is that central to the energy pattern of humanity, the collective humanity, is a caring nature.
Absolutely.
And with that caring nature comes responsibility, which we'll dive into further. But I just think for anybody who's listening to this and even is like, okay, so they keep mentioning the word energy pattern, probably just want to at a high level you know, about energy flows and how...
All right, so we talked about energy pattern. So there's an energy and there's a pattern, right? And most people think they're the same. They're actually not. And if you think of a city, and we have sewage pipes and we have water pipes, the actual network of pipes is the pattern, right? And those patterns, like, it can get blocked up and it can stop. And, you know, we talked about the disconnection. So something's happened, it could have happened in there. The other thing that can happen, and then the energy is like the fluids or what flows through those pipes.
Yes.
And if one's sewage, obviously what flows through sewage is what is different to what flows through the water. So we have
the drinking and bathing water.
And also what can happen is we can switch them over. So maybe the sewage is flowing through the water pipe.
Right.
And, you know, that is what we do at Wisdom in Your Life, is we repattern things that have gone wrong.
Yes.
So does that answer your...
Yeah, because I think we seldom realise that there is a pattern through which, let's just, for the purposes of this, call it life flows through.
Yeah.
We feel the energy of life, and we experience that, but we often don't realise that there is a pattern that it's flowing through. Yeah. And it's that pattern that can cause ease and grace, or disharmony and what have you.
Yeah,
and
but it's not the pattern that's causing it.
Yeah.
It's when we isolate,
yes,
or forget about it, because our unique energy pattern is like a blueprint for how we need to live.
Yeah.
And the energy pattern of humanity is a blueprint for all people everywhere.
Yeah.
And so our structures, our processes, our way of educating, our way of living really needs to reflect the energy pattern of humanity, rather than some arbitrary thing that people have decided.
Yes.
An idea.
Yeah. And I think, there's a few things happening for me, but I'm not sure that I'll be able to articulate it at the moment. I do feel like, though, we're talking about the pattern that the energy, follows, or the pipes. I think it's important that we call it Hule.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I am getting a sense that, when I listen to you speak about the pipes, for me that's a form and substance.
Okay.
And so I think it's important that we name it Hule, and we explain a little around what that is.
Yeah. So all of this comes from, realm theory, and we've got other podcasts on realm theory, so I'm not going to talk too much about that. But basically, us sitting here, the stuff we've got on the table and that, all has form and substance. We can pick it up, we can look at it, the crayons, you, me, and everything.
We can throw it at each other, it hurt.
Yeah, and we have this form and substance, right?
Yeah.
And then we also have time and space, which has no form and no substance. We can't do anything.
Yeah.
But there's this thing in between that, and energy is form with no substance, and what Storm just mentioned, Hule, is substance with no form. And an example of the form with no substance is energy.
Yep.
Because, physicists have discovered different forms of energy, and that they have no mass, so there's no substance to them. They've also know that there's something throughout everywhere that has substance, because the weight is there, so the mass is there, but they can't find it anywhere.
Yes.
And to fully understand it, you'll have to get into realm theory, but you're right. Hule is substance with no form.
However, the energy follows the pattern.
Yes.
Of that, and so it's important, I guess, for the people watching this to understand that.
Yes.
As well.
Yeah. And and I suppose that's where I get to if the pipes got switched. And so, because energy has form with no substance, energy can transform.
Yes.
Hule has substance with no form, so it can't transform, but it can do what we call Hule switches. And, and sometimes we have to switch it back to be in alignment.
Yeah.
Yeah. And an example of that, just in real terms, is when your pipes are crossed over or contaminated and things like that. That might be a reflection of a Hule switch.
Could be. Yeah.
Okay.
And so we may do practices and exercises that flush out, dirty water, right, that makes you feel good. Like, people do a lot of energy stuff and shouting and moving and clearing things out, or even crying and exercise. Or shouting at your steering wheel, which I've done once or twice. But it's like you may flush that out, but if the pipes are still connected up the wrong way, lo and behold, you'll be back at the same place, because, like you say, that's the pattern that the energy abides by.
Yeah. And so imagine turning on your tap, and it's a sewage tap, not a water tap.
Yeah.
Like, that's what it's like.
And your energy clearing is simply getting a water filter.
Yes.
Not fixing the pipe or
not fixing the root cause of the issue.
Yeah.
Indeed.
And so the work that we do actually addresses
both of those, as well as the form and substance.
Yes.
And we do it with no form and no substance in time and space.
Yeah.
So, for instance, when we were working through unearthing, I like to say unearthing the energy pattern, time and space seemed to, I don't know, warp. Warp's the best word. And, you know, we were booked up, right? And then something changed, and unfortunately someone's father died, not with us. And all of a sudden we had 3 days. I had 3 days where we had no other work on, and I just got up and said, this is what we need to do. And that came from my deep knowing, which we will talk about later. Because when all your pipes are flushed out and everything is flowing, we can actually connect to our deepest knowing and be able to feel into lots of things.
And it's that deepest knowing that allowed us to sense into the energy pattern of humanity, something way bigger than ourselves, because we're able to discern what's ours and what's not ours, and what is influencing us. And I think, you know, bringing it all back round and up, the beauty of understanding the energy pattern of humanity for me is that it starts to answer, or it starts to provide a lot of behind why I know why Bryn is so unique in and of his own right and how I move, but there are certain things that I share with everybody around me, right, and that feel really, really important to me, and that's my connection to everybody around me. And now I can start to understand in more nuance and detail just what that connection is with everybody. Because I think often we like to think that we're a little bit similar to other people, but hugely different generally, like the 80-20. But I think really it's 80% of us is similar, and it's just the 20% that is unique.
And you know, there's certain things that all humans are.
Yes.
And so one of them is all humans are emotional. All humans are inquisitive. We all want to know a little bit more.
Yes.
We're all social. We actually don't do very well on our own, even when we choose to be on our own for periods of time. And as you know, I love my time on my own. And the other one where we are so impatient. And so those things are part of that energy pattern of humanity. We are all those things. But predominantly, we are actually carers of everything.
Yes.
And, you know, over my years of working, people always come in and go, I just want something in my life that allows me to care for people. Right? And it's just come up time and time again. And then it was, I don't know, how long ago I heard an Aboriginal story that said, you know, that we are the carers of everything. And that's actually part of our responsibility. And that really resonated with me. And then as I've travelled across to different places, and a lot of Indigenous communities all around the world say the same thing. Our purpose is to be carers of everything. And yet the 80% of the time we don't see that, but 20% of time, you you know, when something's happening, we see it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. So, you know, and I think that was really, as we started to unearth the energy pattern of humanity, it was like all these things that we knew but didn't know we knew became really obvious.
Yeah. And then it became something we couldn't unsee. There we go. So, do we want to add any more to this part?
I don't know. Is there anything you want to add, Storm? You were sitting there for...
I feel like there's a lot more, and I feel like we didn't...
Yeah, but this was just the introduction of it all. This was just the energy pattern about the wisdom of humanity.
Yeah,
and we've got 6 more to do. So
okay.
6 more in this series anyway.
Yeah.
So what did we cover? We covered the substrate.
Yep.
Yep.
The conglomerate. That
the energy, Hule energy.
Yep. We covered that we have patterns that are life patterns, and then we have destructive patterns. We covered that, you know, our natural way of being is to did we cover that? Connect, integrate, and expand?
No, we didn't.
We talked about isolate and fragment when we don't.
But we didn't say disintegrate. We didn't say them in order or anything like that. So I think as a conglomerate, we need to do isolate, fragment, disintegrate, connect, integrate, expand.
Okay, so as all living things, the way we evolve is to connect, integrate, and expand. I'll pass on to you, Bryn, because you talk about this really well.
Yeah.
In that, I'll let you.
One of the elements of life, of being alive, is that we're continually self-organising. You know, like right now I'm organising, moving my hands around, my voice, and everything. And you know, there's the obvious self-organising of what I just explained, but then there's the less obvious self-organising of my temperature, my breath, digestive functions, and all of that. So we're organising all of the time, and the only time we stop doing the self-organising is when life actually leaves the body, and that's one of the, it's one of the symptoms of being dead. But
another dad joke.
It's not a dad joke. So when we're organising, when we organise by following the path of opening up, connecting to things, or disconnecting to things that have served us but no longer serve us now, or didn't serve us in the first place, and it's time to let go. But we open up and we connect, right? We connect to ideas, we connect to concepts, we connect to things around us. And then after a period of time, we'll start to begin to close up. And then this is when we start to, all the things that we've connected to start to form a working whole. This is where we integrate things, right? And then once we have properly integrated what we've connected to, then we create some space and we expand, right? Now, the best example I can give you of this is, how many times have you started a new job or a project or a piece of work, and to start with, it's all just confusing, right? And then you connect with a few concepts, and then you start to get a sense of self-efficacy, and you understand what's going on, and then you're good. And this comes after 2 or 3 weeks. And then you think, oh yeah, I know what's going on in the job. And then you're going along for another couple of weeks thinking, oh, I'm good. And then all of a sudden, a new layer of complexity opens up to you. And this is because you've connected to some stuff, you've integrated, which is then what you sense as being, oh, I know what I'm doing here. But then because you know what you're doing and you've integrated that, and you open up for some more space, now you can take on the next layer. And so what you knew before, you still know, but now you've gone to confused again. And so now you have to do another period of connecting, and you'll be connecting into that which you've already integrated. And then finally you'll close up and you'll integrate around that, and you'll be open up for some space. And this is why, you can go through several phases, particularly in a new job. As I often say, a new job takes anywhere up to 6 to 12 months to properly get, as I often call it, because you're going through this process. And this is what all like we say, this is what all living entities do.
And this would apply to new relationships as well?
Totally.
So you think 6 to 12 months to really get to know someone?
Yeah.
Okay.
And what we're doing here is we're following this growth path of connect, integrate, and expand. But what we're doing is all of us is connecting, right? All of it. When we isolate bits off, so say for instance, let me give you an example. I think we all had experience of school, turning up, being our full self, and then all of a sudden you get teased for it or something like that, and you think, whoa, that bit of me is not welcome here because it's going to get me unnecessary attention, right? I will isolate that bit of me off, and we probably had to do this at work as well. We can't take all of ourselves into a lot of the modern day workplaces, so we isolate things off. And the challenge with that is once we isolate things, then we start to disconnect and break connections. So then we start to fragment, and we may have done that at some point. We chop off a bit of ourselves, we leave it behind, and the rest of us gets through the situation, and then we learn, oh, that's helped us. So we keep doing it and doing it and doing it. And what happens is we isolate all these parts, we begin to become fragmented. And then as a fragmented entity, after a period of time, we reach this tipping point where we can't keep all the bits together because they're all separated out, so we disintegrate. So these are the two paths of connect, integrate, expand.
Which is the life.
Which is the life growth pattern. And this is the same that all plants and birds and fish and animals and living entities go through. But then when we go through this isolate, fragment, disintegrate, that's a destructive pattern. And these are the two patterns that, whilst we have, like we said before, we have our energy pattern, which is the spark that we're given, and that can't change. But if we try and if we live by that energy pattern, continuing to connect and integrate and expand in line with that, then life starts to have a sense of purpose and meaning, and we move with an element of ease and grace. Doesn't make everything easy all the time, but we can move through difficult stuff with ease and grace, knowing who we are and how we work. But if we start to isolate, fragment, disintegrate, then we struggle to know who we are. We disconnect from our energy pattern, and then we only know ourselves through all these different fragments.
Or could we know ourselves through other people?
Yes.
And we're not actually connected internally. And I
suspect that bit of not knowing who we really are but knowing ourselves outside of ourselves is also what's happened to humanity as a whole.
Because I think we've disconnected from who we are as a collective, which would say that we've isolated ourselves from that.
And one of the final points to get across is that we have our own individual energy pattern. Bryn has one, Ros has one, Storm has one.
They're on the table here.
But then a business or a family, another entity.
That's our business energy pattern is up there.
So a business or a family will have an energy pattern because that's an entity in and of its own right. And then a community can have one, a state can have one, a country can have one, and then you get all the way out to the biggest almost container set, which we got to, which is humanity. And it's important because the bigger the set, the more it's influencing what's inside of it. But we'll come to more of that later.
I think what's helped me is that, we're talking about energy patterns individually, collectively, and all of that. When I came into this, it helped me with the language of what is the true nature of me as a different concept. It's still an energy pattern, right, or a blueprint, but just sitting with and leaning into what is the nature of me, what is the nature of my family, what's the nature of a business or an organisation or any living entity. So just as another concept of what is the nature, how does that be, do, move,
Organise.
And that is what the energy pattern actually gives us. It gives us our true nature, or the true nature of a business, the true nature of a family.
And just to loop back around and recap, you know, if we stay true to our nature and connected to that, we don't get strayed to external things pulling us in other directions. I think what we've found now is that, you know, we're talking about destructive patterns in humanity now, is that we often connect or falsely connect or attach to external things, external concepts, ideas, things that we should be doing or think that we should be doing. And we often end up searching externally for ourselves, but we end up on a path in the opposite direction to ourselves. So we forget to stop and actually come back in. We get caught up in looking for it externally. I'm not saying anything new. This is, you know, we've known this for so long. But just sitting with the idea of what is the nature of me and coming back to that. And discerning then, or letting go of anything else that doesn't align with that.
And we've just taken this another step, because we've all known the nature of us ourselves for quite a while now. And it's only because we've been practicing and having lots of experiences that we actually know what is us and what isn't us, that we were able to come together as a collective and allow the energy pattern of humanity to show itself to us. Right? Without doing what we've done over the last several years, we could never have unearthed the energy pattern of humanity. I think that's important for people to understand.
And I think as well it's important that whilst we say that we've practiced for however many years, we've all practiced and we've done the work and we know our processes, furthermore to that, we've embodied all of those things. Right? And that's the integration. And I think that's an important key.
Because it's one thing to read about it, it's another thing to live it.